Okay. Notre Dame. All right, so Marcus Freeman back for his third season, 10-3 last year. He's won back-to-back bowl games. New offensive coordinator Gerard Parker. I'm sorry. That's the old offensive coordinator, Gerard Parker. He took the Troy job. They bring in Mike Denbrock to coach the offense. And first of all, he was with Notre Dame years ago. From 2010 to 2016, he was with Notre Dame. Last couple of years, he's been with Brian Kelly at LSU. And we know that unit was certainly able to put up some points. So Mike Denbrock running the offense. Overall, pretty similar coaching staff here. As far as returning production, 97th in returning production, 15 returning starters. And I guess we'll start with the big question. Andy, Riley Leonard, upgrade or downgrade from Sam Hartman?
I don't think it's either. I told you before, I don't really think it's either.
It's a lateral move?
I think it's as lateral as you get. He's really good at running. Sam Hartman really didn't move much. Sam Hartman had a gun for an arm. Riley Leonard is very unproven with his arm. So I think it's literally the same thing. Well, it's not the same thing, I guess. They can run different styles, but I think Sam Hartman was more of a Notre Dame guy.
I think it's an upgrade.
You seemed pretty high on Riley Leonard when we talked about Duke yesterday. I'm not as highly on him as.
So here's what I'll say. I think Riley Leonard has a higher ceiling. Sam Hartman is a little safer.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a very fair point. Because, Sam Hartman, they got him. It was his last year in college. Riley Leonard will have another year after this if he wants. And he already had coming off an injury, so I think he'll be fine. Yeah, I don't mind that.
So Riley Leonard takes over quarterback, obviously, as I'm sure you've sniffed out. A little bit unproven as a passer, maybe, but crazy athlete. Now, as far as running backs, Estime's gone, and he was a machine last year. 1,300 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns. He was a monster running the ball for Notre Dame last year. He's on the Broncos now. But they do have two running backs that they like, and it's Notre Dame. You know, like the next running back up is going to be dope. The two running backs they got this year, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. I don't know too much about them. I'm sure they're really good, and from what I'm reading, they like them. So between those two guys, I'm sure Notre Dame will have a pretty savage rushing attack. Their leading receiver, Peast, he went to Virginia, Chris Tyree. Overall, they have weapons, though. They have arguably the best tight end in the country, one of Mitchell Evans.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, probably one of the best tight ends in the country. I'm sure you'll be hearing his name in the NFL draft talks at some point, Mitchell Evans. They also brought in Chris Mitchell from FIU, who was first-team All-Conference USA, to play wide receiver. So, they do have some weapons. I would say a lateral move as far as receiving weapons for Notre Dame. Here's where I'm concerned with Notre Dame. And I like a lot about this team, but I think there's no question you have to say the offensive line takes a step back. Just two starters back on an offensive line, and three pieces that left were arguably the three best. Yeah. So they lost three offensive linemen that were probably the three best offensive linemen they have. Now, it's Notre Dame. Of course, they're going to have a talented offensive line. It's Notre Dame. An offensive lineman at Notre Dame is a staple. It's like defensive linemen at Clemson or Georgia. They're just going to have a good offensive line. But, they lost Joe Alt, the other guys in the NFL, too. They lost their three best offensive linemen, and that concerns me because we got such a high level of production from the Notre Dame's offensive line last year that if that take a step back, they have to take a step back, I think.
Yeah, 100%. They also brought in the 5-star left tackle freshman. He's already out for the year. He got hurt in training camp, so they lost one of those highly recruited freshmen that they really, really were excited about. He was going to start at left tackle, so obviously they felt very highly of him. So that is a huge one. I think the O-line will be worse than it has been for a while. This is obviously a school that knows their O-line. I think also what you said with the receivers, adding a guy like Mitchell, we talked about him when we talked about FIU. That was a huge loss for them. That's a huge get for this team. 1,000-yard. You don't get 1,000-yard receivers. They don't pop up out of nowhere. That's a very good get. So I'm not really worried about quarterback will be fine. Running back will be fine. It's Notre Dame. The running back will be good. Doesn't matter who it is. Wide receiver will be fine. I'm worried about the O-line. The fact that they lost one of those highly touted freshmen already, too, is very dangerous.
Yeah. So offensive line definitely takes a step backwards, in my opinion, and in turn. Now, it's probably a good thing that the offensive line troubles is coming in the year. They have a quarterback that can move. Riley Leonard's athleticism will surely help with that offensive line. But, no question, takes a step backwards there. On the defensive side of the ball, though, who the hell is running the ball in Notre Dame this year? Holy shit. This defensive front seven should be an absolute problem, one of the best in the country. That D tackle Howard Cross back for another year in college.
Yeah.
3 starters back on the defensive line. They did lose their leading tackler and their main linebacker, but brought in a transfer from Arizona State. They brought back a couple starters. I mean, Notre Dame's defensive front seven was elite last year and should be just as elite this year, right?
Yeah, exactly what I was gonna say. They added a star transfer from Duke on the D line. That's huge. One of the guys that the D line, I think you said Cross, he could have gone to the NFL, decided not to. The front seven's very good. I mean, it's Notre Dame. What do you expect?
No one's running the ball in Notre Dame this year, or at least on paper, no one should be able to run the ball on Notre Dame this year.
Yeah.
Secondary lost a couple pieces, but they also brought back a few. Their star safety, Xavier Watts, is still there. Didn't he have 7 picks? Did I read that right?
Yeah.
7 interceptions last year. First team All-American. They also got a cornerback who had 3 picks, a cornerback that had 3 picks last year. And they brought in a nickel corner from Northwestern, who apparently is pretty good. I don't know anything about him, but apparently he's pretty good too. So secondary was elite last year. Maybe not elite again, but I mean, I would still say top 25 secondary.
Yeah, that's what I wrote for me. I said it's very tough to replicate being third in yards per attempt, third in success rate, third in effective pass, or 7th in effective pass. Very tough to replicate that, but they're going to still be really good. If they fall back, it'll be like middle of the top 10. Like they're still going to be great.
So what is our thoughts? Under in week 1 against Texas A&M. Under.
That game will be that's an overrated game. I don't think Texas A&M is a very good team this year. That's a
Weidman's a beast, bro.
Yeah, but the rest of that team is not very good.
If Notre Dame comes out and runs the same slow pace they did last year, that game should be 14-13.
Yeah, I think it'll be a low-scoring game, but it could be like
total's like
21-7.
46.
Yeah.
But we talked about it. Riley Leonard used to running a faster pace, right? Oh, no, that was different. We were talking about that with a different transfer. Notre Dame runs the same slow pace with Riley Leonard, and especially with Riley Leonard, you expect them to run the ball more, chew the clock. That has to stay under the total, right?
Yeah, that'll be an under. That'll be a slow, boring game in my opinion. But I think Notre Dame will pretty much own that one. That Texas A&M team's not that good. Simple. And then it gets. I mean, this schedule's a freaking joke until November.
It's a joke, you say?
It's a freaking joke until November. I mean, they're Notre Dame. They're playing. It's not their fault that the teams they usually play aren't very good. Like they play Purdue every year. Purdue's awful. Louisville, good team, fine. Stanford, they have to play them every year. They're awful, right? So like, it's not their fault. These teams suck. For some reason, they also play Army and Navy, which is. I don't understand why that happens, but those are both neutral site too.
I don't understand why that happens.
That has to happen. They play a game against Miami of Ohio.
Hates tradition.
Yeah, I hate tradition. Miami of Ohio is like a decent opponent, but like it's Notre Dame. They're probably
all right. Let's go through it. At Texas A&M, I mean, very winnable.
Yeah. Northern Illinois is a joke.
What do you think of Purdue this year?
Purdue's awful.
No, they're not.
They're awful. They're the worst team in the Big Ten.
You don't respect the coach, bro.
Yeah, because he might not have a job at the end of the year.
It's his.
Worst team in the Big Ten.
No,
they're the worst team in the conference.
I can't wait. When are we doing Purdue? You're going to get shit on that day.
Couple of weeks.
No, Purdue is not the worst. Purdue should be better this year. All right. So anyway, they could very well be 4-0 going into Louisville, and you think
they're getting revenge.
They're getting their revenge. They're not going to get upset by Louisville again.
This is
no way. So that's 5-0, 6-0 Stanford.
They're
Georgia
8-0.
Tech. Is that a neutral site?
I think so, but it doesn't matter. They're going to beat Georgia Tech.
I like Georgia Tech, man. I mean, they probably win, but if they win that's 7-0. Navy 8-0.
Games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Interesting.
I mean, I don't see how at Notre Dame. What game do they drop to make it 9 wins?
USC. That's what people.
No, that would be 10 wins. Let's say theoretically.
Oh, you mean to hit the under? Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. That game would probably be Louisville. People would probably look at Louisville.
They have to lose all 3 of those ranked games: A&M, Florida State, USC.
And what are the chances to lose all 3 of them?
I think they can take 2 of them.
This is an over. I get this. This team usually gets preseason hype, but they only have 3 ranked teams on the schedule, 2 of which probably won't even be ranked at the end of the year anyway. So yeah, this is an over. This team's going to crush a lot of their opponents too.
Over 10 and over 10. I'm not betting this one because betting Notre Dame over wins just like I'm annoyed just saying, even putting it on the screen but yeah, the schedule just. All right, who's next?
Fresno's
next.
Fresno, yes.
Bulldogs. All right, 7.5 wins. Let's get the poll going.